afternoon. I'm Meg Whalen. I'm the Director of Communications and External Relations for the College of Arts and Architecture. And today I have with me two of our students, architecture student Tommy Coggin and engineering student Bobby Fornabaio. And these two fellows were part of the Solar Decathlon team and are recently returned from Irvine, California, where they helped rebuild the Solar Decathlon house, Urban Eden, out there at the Great Orange Park, Orange County Great Park in California. And we're there for the competition, and they're going to talk to us a bit about it today and tell us what it was like to be out there and give you an update on how Urban Eden did in the competition and what was involved in that process. So welcome, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
With us. And when did you get back to Charlotte?
We flew back the 7th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a flight from Los Angeles. We had to go through Atlanta and then came back.
How long were you out in California?
We left on the 22nd and came back on the 7th.
The 22nd of September.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is take our viewers through a series of pictures, and you can talk to them about some of the things that they will see on their screen. And the first picture that I have is a picture of the build site. It's back here on campus when we were still building Urban Eden earlier in the summer. Tell us a little bit about where this is and how long it took to get it built to begin with.
Yeah, that's the site right behind Epic in the loading bay. You see the football stadium in the background. And this is a shot taken from the CRI deck, I believe. So it's pretty high up there.
And at this point in the construction, you can see they've just put on the roof membrane. Most of the structural steel is up, as well as all the concrete walls have been tilted up. But the windows haven't been placed yet, and the deck hasn't been finished yet. So this is a couple months into construction, but about a month before we finished as well.
And so tell people, I can't imagine there's anyone watching that doesn't know what this was all about, because there's been so much discussion and promotion and conversation about the Solar Decathlon and about our house, Urban Eden. But just for those few who may not know what we were trying to accomplish, tell us about that a little bit.
It's a program run by the Department of Energy, and there's 20 schools that are lucky enough to be involved, and there's a competition out, which this year was new, to be in Irvine, California, and they have to build a house that's completely solar powered, top of the line electronics, just a passive house is the goal.
And we tried to include green features in the house. We had, Energy Star appliances, low flow fixtures for the plumbing, and other just sort of green features like that.
Yeah, so the idea is to build a house that's livable, that people could live in, that have all the amenities that we're accustomed to, dishwasher, refrigerator, and all of that, but it's all powered by the sun. So you mentioned the concrete. Our house was built out of concrete, and I'm actually going to pull up a little video of the day that we took the house apart and loaded on trucks to move it from here on campus out to California. So talk a little bit about this. The house is made out of concrete, and our concrete is different from traditional concrete. So tell us a little bit about that.
It's a product that's been developed by Dr. Brett Tempest of civil engineering here on campus. And basically they replaced the Portland cement in the concrete with fly ash, which is a waste product from coal power plants. And it's revolutionary because it reduces the carbon dioxide that's produced from Portland cement or regular concrete by about, I think, 8% of the world's carbon footprint, so it's a pretty big...
and it reduces, I think, by 90% the amount of carbon
in the concrete making process.
Concrete.
Yep.
Right. Tommy, tell me a little bit about why it might be good for an energy efficient house to even make it out of concrete. It seems like a I mean, a concrete house seems so strange. We have brick houses and wood houses, but I think ours was the only concrete one out at the park in Irvine, right?
Well,
why would we
the
choose
geopolymer
concrete?
cement, besides its green features, the CO2 reduction, has a lot of uses as well because of something called thermal mass. If you have thick, heavy walls made out of stone or concrete or a similar material, you can basically store heat in the walls. So what we did is we had a system of capillary tubes which run water through the walls, and you could heat up or cool down the concrete walls depending on the temperature you wanted the inside of the house to be. And so that would, create a cooler environment or a warmer environment without actively turning on the AC or the heater.
So you mentioned that the concrete, because it's dense and heavy, has thermal mass. That means it's slower to heat up and to cool down, and it holds that energy. This, as we can tell from looking at the video, this was a heavy house.
Yeah,
it was a real effort.
That was the 80,000 pound pod, I believe, the living room, and that was one of the heaviest ones.
How many parts to the house were there?
The house was divided into 4 separate pods for transportation. Each one was roughly 12 by 17 feet, and like I said, we had the 4 pods in total.
So they picked up each one of them with this giant crane and put them on the back of trucks. What was it like that day when they were picking up the house?
It was pretty slow. You could tell this one's taken a while, and part of the issue they had with this one was because it was concrete walls and this pod had an interior wall. It was very off-center, so they had to take a while to load it on the truck to make sure it was safe to drive.
So they got them all on big trucks, drove them out to California, and
That's
you
the
guys
site.
flew out, and that's the site. So this is the Orange County Great Park in Irvine, California, where the Solar Decathlon teams all gathered together. 20 teams were accepted. I think only 19
Made it out there.
teams made it out there. And here's some of our team members at the park. And so I see you guys in this picture. I think this is the first day that you were there. Talk a little bit about what was the process. How long did you have to put the house back together, and what were some of the challenges that you had?
What was the total build week? I think
We had 10 days to put the house back together. It came on the 4 trucks came with the 4 pods. The first thing we did was survey the site to find out what the level of the runway was. They held it on an old Marine Corps air base. So the houses were put on a runway, so we had to figure out the levels of the runway, lay out where the house was going to be, set down foundations strong enough to hold up the 80,000 pound pods, and then we started craning in the pods. We craned in the pods, and once the pods were craned in and placed, it was a simple matter of attaching the ramps to the front and reinstalling the deck pieces on the back.
Not so simple matter, though.
So there's the strip you're talking about, the
You
Marine
can see all the cranes there.
base, all the cranes to help people get their houses together, and there's
There's our
one that we
boom truck.
used.
Yeah.
What are the guys and girls? I must say we have a lot of girls on our team, both architecture and engineering students. And what are they doing here?
Right here they are assembling the PV racks, which were going to be situated on the roof. And the impressive thing about these racks, which they don't have them on right now in this picture, is they are on a wheelbase. So it's basically like a garage door, but it's got solar panels on it that'll go in and out. So
And how does that function then? What's important about that?
In terms of catching solar energy, it does about the same in both locations on the house, but the really innovative thing was that with the back curtain wall we had of all glass, we could shade the light getting into the back of the house with these. So during the summer months, you'd have it retracted out over the back deck, and you can really stop the solar gains from getting in that back window. And then in the winter, when you want a little more of the solar gain, you can tract it over the house and get a lot more heat.
So you actually would slide the PV panels back out. Here's a pod being delivered there in Irvine. Slide those PV panel racks out back and forth over the deck depending on whether you want shade. Did you see any other house out in California that had that kind of mechanized system for their solar panels?
There's only one that I saw, and that was Caltech, but their whole house split apart. So
Their whole house moved.
We were one of few out there. So
yeah. Here's
Night
working at
picture.
night. It looks like you worked around the clock to get the house built.
Yeah,
For the 10 days, the construction hours were 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. And so there were a couple nights where we were there kind of late to make sure
Yeah.
that UNC Charlotte was represented.
Yeah,
some
really.
18-hour days.
Those were some long days.
That's it all.
You can see the racks now on the ground, and then here they are being installed on the roof.
Yep.
So.
And you can see how right now the PV, the photovoltaic, which are solar panels, the racks are slid all the way to the back of the front of the house. And then if you wanted that deck over there on the right side shaded, you would slide them forward over the deck.
Right.
That's a picture of all the houses on the strip.
Yep, so there were 19 houses, and tell us a little bit about some of the other houses that were out there. And
They were all really impressive.
And they were all localized as well. You can see there's a Canadian team in the very front on the right side, and they have sort of more wooden materials. On the left side in the front, you can see West Virginia. They had a sort of log cabin idea, so depending on where each team was from, they sort of brought their own kind of local feel to the project to try to distinguish themselves from the other houses.
the teams came from all over.
It was an international competition, so we had a few foreign teams. We had 2 Canadian teams and 2 European teams, as well as teams represented from California to New York to North Carolina.
Yeah. And there's us.
Yep.
We were lot 112, and you can see the front of our house. Finally got it pulled together. And there's the entryway
It's a good shot there.
to the house. Yeah, so, and there's the back. Tell us a little bit about the design of the house and what the main features were.
Well, one of the biggest features we wanted to go with was sort of comfortable living in the city. So we used the city materials. We have the concrete and the steel, but then we also wanted to create, a livable space in the city. So we have the thick concrete walls to the front that would block out the urban sound and other pieces of urbanity that you wouldn't like. And then on the back side, we have an indoor-outdoor feel. So you can see the large glass windows on the south side that open up to that large open deck.
Yeah, and in this picture you can see how those PV panels are pulled out over the deck to provide shade. And of course it was sunny most of the time in Irvine. What was it like out there weather-wise?
Dry.
Yeah.
Compared to North Carolina.
Sunny and dry.
And here's inside. Tell us a little bit about the features inside of the house.
Well, one of the interesting features of the inside of the house was we had adaptable furniture. So depending on how you wanted your house to function, you could change the use of the furniture. In the background of this picture, you can see the TV cabinet. And the TV cabinet actually was on a roller, and it's functioned like a large door. You could grab the right side of that cabinet and swing the entire TV wall out. And behind there was a Murphy bed, so if you want a guest to stay the night or anything, you could have that. As well as, since the TV pivoted out to 90 degrees from this, you could sit outside on the beautiful back porch and watch TV from the outside if you had nice weather. And then also the other piece of adaptable furniture that you can't really see in this picture, but it's under the bar right there in front of you. There's a table that seats 8 people that slides out. You would pull it out and pull it apart and stick in a leaf in the middle. And so that bar that it sits 4, you could pull it out into a table that sits 8 people.
Or even 10, really.
Oh, yeah,
It's
10,
such
yeah.
a large table.
I think the impressive thing about this picture, at least, and the whole interior of the house, is all those cabinets are built by students. And they're all faced with the Lambu product. So there's a lot of intricacies that you can see that they just blend into the house, but there's a lot of thought put into them.
And tell me about that product. What is Lambu?
Lambu is a laminated bamboo, and Tommy could probably talk better about it than I can.
Lambu, like Bobby said, is a laminated bamboo. The strains run cross to each other to create strength. And this Lambu, since it's made of bamboo, is much more sustainable than regular wood products, and also it does much better with heat transference. So we have it placed on the outside of the house, and it wouldn't heat up or cool down as fast as regular wood as well.
One more thing about this, that countertop is made with a different product too, right?
It's a degradable, it was paper, it's laminated paper put together to make that countertop, so if it's a biodegradable material, so if you ever wanted to change out the countertops, that material wouldn't have any environmental impact.
Right, it's recyclable or even degradable, which is fascinating to think of a countertop made out of paper. So here are a few of the other rooms, and again you can see, as you said, Bobby, all of this very extravagant cabinetry and furniture built by students. Was that distinctive about our house, or were other houses, did they all feature student-built furniture, or was ours kind of unique in that way?
I got to walk through a couple other houses when we were out there, and for the most part they were just bland IKEA or something really without detail to it. There are a couple houses where the students have made the furniture, but for the most part ours stood out pretty well.
Yeah. So
the nice thing about this shot is that you can see the plant wall in the back, which I'm sure you have more pictures as we go through.
right, that vertical garden through the glass wall. There's the bathroom, again the Lambu built custom-made cabinet for the sink. And there it is on the back, the paneling.
That's a shot back here at Charlotte because the
That's right, you can see the wall before it was taken
reflection
apart.
pool wasn't finished at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us
man.
what this is.
Here's the mechanical room here. On the top right corner of it, you can see a little darker colored gray box, and that was the ERV. So that was one of the parts of the HVAC of the house that really allowed it to be passive and really low energy.
And what is an ERV? What does that mean?
Energy recovery ventilation. So it'll take the heat that's left in the air and use it to heat or cool or produce energy, however you like.
And why is it important to have ventilation in a house like this, extra ventilation capacity?
Really just to keep the air fresh, and you can condition it. Below it we have the dehumidifier, so talk about moving air and ventilation. You want to keep the comfort level pretty comfortable. Down there, that big white thing with some wire sticking out of it and a fan on the top is the water heater, which that was actually revolutionary because it's got a heat pump on it, so it'll blow, that fan up top will spin and heat up a refrigerant, which will in turn heat the water in the tank, and all at the same time that fan will cool the air that's in the mechanical room there, so it'll serve three functions almost. It'll air condition the space and transfer the heat from the mechanical room to the water.
To the water itself.
Then you can see on the left side of that picture we have our inverters for the solar panels on the roof. Change the phase of the power, make it usable. So yeah, that's a messy shot there.
Well, it's a working space. So
Yeah.
what was the point of kind of putting all of these pieces together in one place like this?
Really convenience. You don't want to have it spread out throughout the house. If anything is going to be repaired or maintenance is going to be done, they can just go into this central room and be able to access all the mechanical systems of the house.
And it's also for to limit the amount of piping we have through the house. So the bathroom is directly behind that back wall. The kitchen is directly beside the wall on the right. So we have shorter pipes, so you have shorter times until the hot water gets there. So if you've ever taken a shower and you turn on your water and you have to wait for it to get hot, that wouldn't happen in this house because of the short pipe runs.
I think some people were calling it the wet core, and that's because, like Tommy was saying, the only piping in the house was in this core of the house, and this was the part of the house that was actually made with steel construction. So it was a little easier to access some of the stuff. It was a steel frame floor, so you could run pipes a lot easier than concrete. What this picture is missing is the big circuit panel on the left side of the wall, which was a lot bigger than any normal house I'd ever seen. It was almost an industrial sized panel, but there was just so many switches for the lights and all the interior mechanical electronics in the house.
And all of these things were tested, right? You talked about keeping a comfort level in the house. You talked about turning on the shower for hot water. I mean, these were parts of the contest, right? Tell us a little bit about...
The DOE actually went into the house and they placed these sensors. I think there's a sensor placed in the washing machine, the dryer vent. They could tell the heat coming out. There was a lot of temperature sensors placed throughout the house. There was a humidity sensor placed somewhere mysteriously in the house. I don't know.
So they always were monitoring how
They're
comfortable it
constantly,
was. We had to prove
They
we
were
could make
monitoring
hot
the
water.
temperature, the humidity. We had to be able to pull hot water at specific times. We had to be able to run electronics, TVs, and sound systems.
That was actually for one of the competitions, the comfort level competition. And like Tommy said, we had hot water draws and a lot of other competitions.
We've got some pictures of the other competitions. Here's a strange occurrence in Irvine, California. It actually rained for a brief time, and that's our beautiful garden behind. And here's when it was opened up for visitors, and
tours,
both of you, I think, were positioned to welcome guests and see them on their way. And tell us a little bit about what that experience was like. How did people receive our house? What did they think?
People loved our house. We actually won the People's Choice Award for the competition, where people who came through the competition were allowed to vote on their favorite house, and we won the People's Favorite.
Yeah, that was a impressive feat. Everyone came through, and for the most part, that plant wall in the back of the house, they just walked out the back bedroom window, and they just froze for a second, because I think for the most part, they didn't expect to see that much privacy from flowers on the airstrip there, so that was impressive.
I think we had something like 600 and some plants on that back wall. There it is.
We had thousands of visitors each day. The tours, we gave tours 2 weekends, and each day you would have thousands of people coming through the house.
Yeah, I think we had more than 10,000 people who actually walked through our house. This is a group of school children, because they also had buses of school kids who came by, and this is a good view where you can see just how big and lush that garden wall is. Here's one of the contests. This is one of your teammates, Nathan Arison. What's he doing?
He's boiling water. For some of the competitions, like I said, we had to pull hot water or keep it at certain temperatures. One of the other contests was to prove that we had, the green, reliable appliances. So in this competition, we had to boil off water. So Nathan is boiling off water in this picture.
Yeah, on our induction cooktop. We had appliances from Electrolux. And this is everybody having dinner. There's our big table. You can see how it seats a nice big crowd. And talk about this element of the competition. What was this about?
This was the entertainment part of the competition, and 2 nights of the competition week, all the houses would host a dinner event, and they would invite, as you can see, the two guys in the yellow there are from the actual Flux house, which was across the street from us, but there's 2 other guests there from the different houses, and some VIP, I think they were, as you could tell.
Local
they weren't.
architects.
Yeah. And you really just have to demonstrate that your house can entertain people. I think they did fried chicken for us one night.
For this one, we had to cook a dinner, and for this one, they did fried chicken and sweet tea, of course, and macaroni and cheese and more sort of southern cooking. And for the other night, we did shrimp and grits and corn and other
so cooked
southern.
a full meal right there in the kitchen of the house.
Yeah, we both got to actually go to the other houses. So
so you got to eat dinner at
Yes.
someone else's house,
That
and
was
how
cool.
was that?
It was really good.
You
They all had people who knew how to cook and how to entertain. So we had very interesting people and nice people who.
Were you both at the same house, or did you go to different houses?
I think we're at different houses.
So which team were you visiting?
I went to a team, they called themselves Kentuckiana. They were 3 different universities from Kentucky and Indiana, and they served chicken and waffles
Oh, that was
and
interesting.
derby pie and all sorts of other good things that were, sort of localized. Once again, the houses for the design was localized, but a lot of the cooking was also sort of localized to show off their local customs.
How about you, Bobby?
I got
Which
to
one?
go to the Canada Borealis house one night, and they had a fish night. And let's just say I was happy to eat dinner before I showed up to that. And then the next night, I went to the Caltech house. And that was a pretty impressive house. That was the one that moved. So it was really cool to be able to talk to the students and get a feeling that you both went through the same issues with the house. I know the Las Vegas house next to us, there was a day when I was talking with one of them on their team, and they were just laughing at all the stories I was saying, and they were saying, oh, we had all the same issues. So that was a cool part of the contest.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest important things is the opportunity for our university to be out there with universities from all over the country and even other parts of the world, for our students to get to know their students and for us to be kind of on that playing field. So that's a real opportunity that the Solar Decathlon provides. These are pictures from the last day. Here's everybody waiting to hear some results, some of our good-looking team members. And this was one of the awards. Bobby, tell us about this award.
I think that was the engineering award that they are receiving right there.
That's right. And what place did we
We came in 3rd place, and I think the 2 teams that placed ahead of us were not U.S. teams, so we can say that we're the top U.S. house in engineering. But that was impressive, and I think we really just took the contest because we had the civil engineering, the concrete in the walls, all the electronics on from the PV on the roof to the moving PV mechanically. So we really covered the spectrum in the engineering sense.
Right. And then, of course, we also, as Tommy said earlier, won the People's Choice Award, which was the popular vote award. And that award was given at the very end of the whole competition, the very last award given. And so there's our team up on the stage there. And I threw in sort of a fun picture of one of the parties. Here's some of us dancing at one of the parties that...
I think that was the opening ceremony.
That was the opening party, that's right, that was sponsored by Bosch, who was one of the sponsors of the Solar Decathlon. So, you know, in the last couple of minutes, tell us kind of what you have taken from all of this. I mean, I was out there too, and I really thought of this whole kind of 2-year experience as really a life-changing experience for anybody involved. I mean, certainly it was for me. There's so many things that I learned about solar energy and about architectural design and even about engineering, areas I knew nothing about, and sort of the value of that. And also there's really this whole team concept. So talk a little bit about what you take from this and why it's important for a university to engage in this kind of activity.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, meeting students from other universities and just seeing different ways of solving similar problems. We all had to design a solar house, but not a single house looked anything like any of the others. So it's always interesting to see how different universities go about solving the same problem in different ways. And then also as an architecture student, it was really interesting to me to work on a project that was actually built, because a lot of our projects in the architecture program are sort of theoretical buildings. We design them, but they would never be designed because we're students, but this provided an opportunity for us to actually work on something that got built. And so I feel like I learned so much from working on a project that was actually built, because I helped design it and then I helped put it together, so I knew exactly how every little component worked and how the building
well,
came
and
together
what's
as a whole.
especially distinctive is not that it was built, but that you actually helped build it with your very hands. And I think even out in the real world, it's probably rare for an architect to actually build the house with his or her own hands. So
yeah, it was a really good and interesting experience.
Yeah, how about you, Bobby?
Yeah, I just see the whole experience as a real learning experience from the PV aspect of it. That's new to me. I've never really dealt with solar energy, so that was cool. But I think for the most part, I had a good bit of construction experience going into it, and I still found myself just at points in the summer saying, how do I do this? How do I go about this? So it was a real eye-opener as to where you go to get a lot of the answers for the construction problems. It was cool to deal with a lot of the contractors that I'd never dealt with before, Baker Roofing, the steel guys that did all the steel on the house. I'd never dealt with any of the big steel that was up there, so it's really a learning experience. And then to see it shift across the country was put it all together that, yeah, you can get 3 pods out there, but if the 4th one doesn't get out there in time, you're still dead in the water. So we had a little issue with that. The house showed up a little late, so really a learning experience.
Well, they got it all taken down, and it's coming back across the country, and it's on its way. It may even be arriving any day now, I would imagine, in Charlotte, and it is coming back to campus. And so we hope to be able to reconstruct it at some point here on campus and use it as a research facility and an educational tool. So maybe it'll continue to have a life educating people beyond you even. So, well, thank you so much for
Thanks for having
taking
us.
us through that process a little bit and talking to us about it. And we thank you for watching, and tune in next week for the Live Wire Tuesday at 2 p.m.